Please quiet yourselves and bring yourself into a worshipful space so the choir can begin our morning worship with the prelude. Good morning again, and welcome to everyone who is here in person, who managed to swim their way over or bring their boat. My name is Sharon Fichthorn, and my pronouns are she and her, and I'm very happy to be here this morning as your worship associate. We come here this morning from different backgrounds, different beliefs, and different places. We come here for different reasons, to make connections, to seek spiritual growth, and to nurture our hearts and souls. No matter who you are, whom you love, you are welcome here. May you find comfort and love this morning and peace as we gather together in community.
Good morning. My name's Joe Miller. My pronouns are he, him, and I'm privileged this morning to be leading worship with Sharon. This is Reverend Laura's Sunday off, but she'll be back here in the pulpit next Sunday. Now, a few words about this morning's Memorial Day service. Today's service will sort of broaden our approach to Memorial Day in a couple of ways. Memorial Day has traditionally honored those who have served in the armed service and lost their lives. And this morning, we will honor those who have served our country and made the ultimate sacrifice. But we'll also use this morning as an opportunity to remember all of those who we have lost, friends, family, colleagues, maybe even church members. And in another way, this service is different because normally we have a sermon. Well, you'll see we don't have one this morning because you're going to be giving this sermon. We're going to be passing the mic around to those who are so moved to give them an opportunity to remember someone that was important in their life. So be thinking about who you might like to remember this morning and what you would like to share about them and their impact on you. Sharon, should we light the chalice?
We light our chalice this morning in honor of those we have known and loved in the past, and in recognition of the gifts and sacrifices they have made on our behalf. May the memories of the times we spent with our loved ones live on in our minds and hearts. Now please rise in body or in spirit as we sing our opening hymn, number 1007 in the Teal hymnal, "There's a River Flowing in My Soul." Each week, we honor the joys and sorrows of our personal and collective lives by dropping a stone in a bowl of water. The stones symbolize all we carry in our hearts, and the bowl, the community that holds us. The water serves as the reminder of our interconnection, that what touches one of us touches us all. Your heartbreak and joy, your grief and your hope, your anxiety and your love are welcome here, and we hold all of our spoken and unspoken joys and sorrows together through the middle. If you would like to honor a joy or sorrow today, you're invited at this time to come. Each week, we take a quiet moment to light our candles of community, justice, and hope. A quiet moment to center ourselves in love for one another and to reconnect ourselves to the work of justice and liberation in our world. First, we light our blue candle for community. This candle is for you and your loved ones, for the ever-rippling concentric circles of love that spread throughout this community and through your circles of friends and loved ones. There is power in naming the people on our minds and hearts aloud. So whether you whisper or shout, I invite you to speak aloud the name or names of people who are on your mind and heart this morning, that we might call them fully into this space. We light our white candle for justice. There is much to pray for and so many people and places on our hearts. This morning, we remember the victims of the senseless shootings at the San Diego Islamic Center and their grieving families. Our hearts are with you. We offer prayers for safety to the soldiers fighting for freedom in Ukraine, Gaza, Iran, and elsewhere. Our hearts are with you. And we pray for relief from suffering for families that are living with hunger and fear in war-torn nations and also right here in the United States. Our hearts are with you. May justice prevail and bring you peace. And we light our purple candle for hope. May we take the risk of loving the world this week, though our hearts are broken, though we fear for ourselves and our loved ones, though the way seems dark. We light a candle of hope, committing ourselves to risking love once again. May our hope and our faith sustain us, embolden us, and guide us to live lives of greater love, justice, and freedom for all. Amen. Please join me in singing Spirit of Life as an affirmation of the promise of love and care for ourselves, for one another, and for our world. The free and generous support of each member and friend of this community fuels our mission and allows us to be part of something much bigger than ourselves. Half of this morning's plate collection will be shared with Mays Share the Plate recipient, New Sanctuary Movement of Philadelphia. This organization works to end injustices against immigrants regardless of their immigration status and expresses radical welcome for all. The ushers will now come forward to receive your generous contributions.
Thank you, choir. When I was a child, growing up in the Washington, D.C. area, there was one holiday that remained crystal clear in my mind. And it wasn't Christmas, it wasn't the 4th of July, it was Memorial Day. You see, on this day, our family had a very specific and moving ritual. We would pile in the car and drive to Mount Olivet Catholic Cemetery in northeast part of Washington, where we would meet my mother's 3 sisters and visit the graves of our relatives. Be it a rainy day like today or a nice sunny one, this ritual occurred every year. Now, mind you, none of my relatives buried at Mount Olivet served in the armed forces. My Uncle Hugh, my father's oldest brother, served as an ambulance driver in World War I, but he was still living. And my father and my brothers were either too young or too old to fight in the wars of the early and mid-20th century. But we still, as a family, observe this holiday. The talk on the ride over to the cemetery focused on probably what my mother was going to make for dinner that evening. But when we got to the cemetery and opened the car door, a hush settled in. We were now on holy ground, and voices were lowered. Running, shouting, and hide and seek among the gravestones was strictly prohibited. I was usually dispatched to get water for the flowers we brought, and my mother and her sisters led the family to the gravesite where a Hail Mary or two was recited. And then the stories came. The stories of Grandpa Tom and Grandma Eileen and others. Someone might ask, did we ever find out what Grandpa died of? And someone would probably reply something like, well, I guess we could check at St. Joseph's Rectory where they still probably have a birth certificate, a death certificate for him. And this would go on for a while. And then the sisters would stroll among the nearby grave sites where others from their Irish neighborhood rested. And then a comment like, oh, look, Mary McCarthy, didn't she live on 8th Street? I wonder if her husband is still alive. He was a drinker, wasn't he? Yes, even in the cemetery, some gossip would creep in. And today, I still follow a variant of this ritual. Several times a year, I visit a nearby cemetery where the ashes of several of my loved ones rest. Usually, my daughter Liz goes with me, and we bring a couple folding chairs and something to munch on, and maybe something to sip on too. And we sit for an hour or so, and we talk about those we have lost. Remember their lives, the good and the bad, and of course, the naughty and mischievous. So whether you go to the cemetery or sit in the woods on Memorial Day or some other day, whether you say a prayer or tell a story or spice it up with a little gossip, the most important thing is just to make time to remember. And as the song told us, so long as we live, they too shall live, for they now are a part of us as we remember them. Now's our opportunity to share some remembrances. And as we do this, I would ask that you say your name. Sharon and I are going to bring around microphones. Say your name. And talk about the person who you've lost, maybe somebody that you've lost, and what they meant to you. And after each person finishes, we will, in unison, say, may their memory be a blessing. So I'm going to start. We're going to get the mics there. Good. Can you hear me? Ah, there we go. Yeah, good, good. This week, I think it was maybe it was 2 weeks ago, we learned that a member of this church, a longtime member of this church, passed. There's only one room in this church that's named after somebody, and it's the McLennan room. And Bob McLennan came long before me and most of us here, and he was the building committee probably for the church for 40 years or something like that, a long, long time. But he served this church in so many ways. I asked Joyce to say a word or two about Bob, but she remembers better than I.
I can't remember when Bob wasn't here. Bob was the head of building and grounds, one of his many jobs here, but this is the most memorable. For many years, back in the day, building and grounds was one committee, and he was both. So I can't remember coming into the church without seeing Bob. He was either on a ladder, he'd have a painter's hat on, he'd have a wrench in his hand, or he was out pulling weeds outside. He was a great gardener at his own house. And we'd relied on him for so many things, one of which was he lived very close by, the first street down off Rose Tree Road. And so he also had a key to the church. At any time anything went wrong, like the electricity went off or the water was leaking or something, any little thing, Bob was called. Or the door wouldn't open, it was locked, and Bob would come up. Any time of day, sometimes night, in the middle of the night even, I think he came here a few times. He just was so dedicated to keeping this building, this institution alive. He was just a wonderful person, and it's very fitting that we named a room after him. We should have named the whole church after him. But anyway, so we all miss Bob.
Thank you, Joyce. And let us say, sure. Bruce.
I remember Bob very well for several reasons. He was instrumental in a lot of things besides building. For instance, he was one of the 4 or 5 of us that got the day school going. He was one of the 4 or 5 that got the singles group going way back that they used to have. So he had a lot of up here ideas as well as these kinds of ideas.
Thank you. About Bob?
Not this Bob. I'm Phyllis Streitel. I grew up in this church. I went off to, can you hear it? Okay. I went off to college, and then I was gone from here for a long time. I remember Bob that we're discussing because he was a beloved teacher in my high school when I grew up. He was a science teacher. I believe he was a chemistry teacher, and I was disappointed that I did not draw his straw when I took that course. So he was good at things before he became active in the church. When we moved back, all of a sudden we saw him here, and I said, I remember you. You were a science teacher. Just a little more background.
Thank you. And so let's say, may their memory be a blessing. May their memory be a blessing. Now,
I have to say that Bob had a partner named Karen who died about a year ago, I guess. And they recovered all the furniture in the what is now called the McLennan Room. They did, and Karen just did a lot of little projects around here. So anyway, she's with him, I guess.
Okay, so it's not all about Bob today. Who has something else to share? Huh?
So, in honor of Memorial Day, I bring memories of my husband's grandfather, William Jacobs, who served in the occupation forces in Japan after the war, after World War II. He actually performed our marriage and was important in my life as well. And he was the son and the grandson of United Church of Christ ministers. When he shipped over to Japan, he said he actually lost his religion because he saw what the U.S. had done to the Japanese people, the horror that the war had caused, the destruction. And he couldn't imagine how a God of any sort, or a God worth worshiping, would allow this to happen. But he told me a story once that they were out, him and his buddy were out driving a Jeep in the Japanese countryside, and they got lost, and the sun was going down, and there was no electricity, no road signs. They were really scared, and they screwed up their courage and stopped at a farmhouse and asked for directions. And the people were so gracious and so kind and helped them find their way and gave them water and smiled at them and sent them on their way with good feelings. And he said it restored his faith in humanity, that even after all that had happened to these people, that they could still be kind to strangers. So when he finished his deployment, he came back to the U.S. and he went to seminary. And he was always a forthright man. He informed his professor that he was an atheist, but he was here anyway. It seemed like the thing to do. His professor said, "That's fine, we can work with that. You don't have to believe to be here. We're just going to start thinking through some things." And I guess he recovered his faith in the divine and the sacred, but he spent the rest of his life as a campus minister, first at University of Pennsylvania here in Philadelphia when Paul's father was growing up, and then at Kent State during the Kent State shooting. He missed being on the ground with the students by about an hour. He'd just left and came back. And all through his time, he was a man of great compassion and kindness.
May his memory be a blessing.
I wanted to say Leota Terry. She was a member of this church quite a few years ago, and she was quiet, but I remember we did a lot of work on anti-racism and understanding white supremacy, and we had a very nice program set up for that day. And the African-American individuals were going to go to another room and, enjoy the day, not having to help the white people understand what racism is like. But Leota Terry, she was like, "I'll stay. If you white people need help, I'm glad to help you." So.
May their memory be a blessing.
Hi, Chris Hagendorf, and this is about Karen McLennan. When Kate and I first came to church, 2006, 7, they had a welcoming for new people, and I was in the room and we had lunch or whatever, and I said, "Are there any crafts that church does?" And Karen came right up to me and said, "Yes, we quilt." I had never quilted before in my life, and I started then, and the rest is history. So if it wasn't for Karen, I wouldn't be quilting.
May their memory be a blessing.
So I'm going to say one more thing about Bob. So Bob McLennan, as far as I know, is the only person this congregation ever made a lifetime member. So that's just another piece. Then I'm going to talk about another Bob. My father, Bob Huff, passed away this year. He was a saint in how he cared for my mother. He was also a stained glass artist and a incredibly passionate game player. For most of my life, I thought he was just really good at games. But sometime in adulthood, I found out that, oh, my dad always keeps score. We never quite figured out how he managed to always win every game that he played, but there was some mischievous in there.
May their memory be a blessing.
We got a theme going here. I'd like to speak another Bob, but he was actually a Rob, and he was Rhonda's and my oldest and dearest friend. So close we were to him and his partner, John, who survived him, that we asked them to be the attendants at our wedding in Blue Hill, Maine in 1989. And because they could not get married at that time, we wanted them to share in our wedding and let that symbolically be their wedding as well. He was a wonderful, brilliant, talented, capable person in an amazing number of fields, as well as being a remarkable baritone singer. And he contracted CLL and leukemia, and unfortunately passed. And it was yet before the time he and John could become legally married. So that's a special pain we carry to this day. And we remember him.
May his
Memory be a blessing.
Today, I'm remembering my cousin, Rachel Eby, who died earlier this year. Rachel was much younger than me, almost 30 years younger. A bright light in the world. She was kind, including making a point to visit my mother who lives with dementia. Even Rachel was living in Italy and then the Netherlands, but whenever she would come to the States, she would make a point of visiting with my mother. Rachel was a clinical psychologist, grew up in a troubled family and lived with bipolar disorder. We lost her far too soon, but we'll be celebrating her life next Saturday.
Her memory be a blessing.
I'm Ann Seidman, and I was thinking about my parents, my dad, in particular Richard Kane. Like Joe, we would go to the cemetery to put flowers on the graves of our loved ones. And the cemetery always had, for people who had served in the military, had special wreaths on them that had poppies on them. And it reminded me of when in 1956, we all piled in the back of a Volkswagen bus and drove around Europe for several weeks. And we were driving in Flanders and looked out the window and saw a field of poppies. And my father recited the poem, "In Flanders Field, the poppies blow." Oh, I can't do it. It makes me cry. But we had many, so I always have real associations with having been in Europe shortly after World War II, remembering of World War I and the devastation. And although in our family, all the way back to the Revolutionary War, we had family members serving in military, but I also have deep, deep roots in Quakerism. And I think that when we also visited the military graveyards for both World War I and World War II, seeing all those graves in rows left a lasting memory. And I thank my father for introducing me to all of that, help form who I am.
Hi, I'm Barb Ray, and I remember my uncle, Major Otto Dradoppel, who was killed in Sicily in July of 1943. And I always remember him, hearing stories about him, and it was his absence that affected my life.
I'm Beth Fitzsimons, and I want to remember Mary Elizabeth Mooney. She went by Bess, and through much of her adult life, she went to school and she worked full time, and she always had time for me. She was my mother.
May their memory be a blessing. Anyone else? You good? I'll do one last one for my brother Hugh. Hugh was 14 years older than myself. And Hugh was gay at a time when that was not an easy thing to be. But he was passionate. He was passionate about politics. And I always remember he would get on, he'd have some campaign going, and we'd have to send out 5,000 piece mailing with multiple pages and all of that kind of stuff. And he would get me to bring all my friends into the dining room, and we'd spend a couple of hours doing that. The sad part was he died after a very full life in 1984 with AIDS, because there was no cure then. But as I say, he lived a tremendously full life in politics, and he gave me my social conscience, my interest in social justice, and that was a tremendous gift. May his memory be a blessing. Anyone else?
I have one.
Sure.
I couldn't decide which one to do, but one is a little irreverent, so I'm going to do the other one. I am one of 4 girls in my family. I am the 3rd girl. Called myself the ignored child because, oh no, another girl. But my oldest sister was named Judy, and Judy and I, she's 7 years older than I am. Judy and I had a kind of special relationship. The other 2 were very type A, very organized, and fought with each other whenever we planned something. So Judy and I would just glance at one another and lock eyes and just pretty much crack up quietly to ourselves about those 2. So we planned a 50th wedding anniversary for my parents, and those 2 fought about every single thing. Judy and I, while they were fighting, just went ahead, set up the tables, ordered the food, brought the food in, got the party going. So Judy died at 59 from I forget, some sort of a medical procedure she was having, and they were not able to stop the bleeding, and she actually bled out at 59. So I lost her young, but in my memory, she is just the one that I related to the best. So I have good memories of my times with her.
May their memory be a blessing.
I'm Sarah Moore Hines. Sarah Moore Hines. So I stand here in memory of my brother Dwight, who died at the end of February. He and I were not close, which made the grieving process a little more complicated. We spent most of our lives, I think, repairing what needed to be repaired from childhood. He was an industrial psychologist and struggled with power as a male. Spent much of his life doing a wonderful job leading men's sensitivity groups. And at his memorial service out west, there were many men who stepped up and thanked him for creating this safe space for men to speak and to show emotion. And I tremendously appreciated him for that. He spent many years volunteering with Compassionate Choices, for those of you who know that group. And he and I helped my father, at the end of his life, stop eating and drinking and dying with dignity, which really brought us very close, Dwight and I, in that process. He had the courage to come out east and do the part where he had to talk to Daddy and say, okay, Dad, what date are you going to choose to stop eating? Because that's what my father wanted to be able to do to escape all the pain he was experiencing. So Dwight's death was unexpected. If I place my bets, I would say and hope that somehow he helped himself, go, so we didn't have to spend another couple years in pain. So I love you, Dwight, and I'm glad we healed our relationship over all those years. And I do miss him. Thank you.
May their memory be a blessing. Good. Okay. I just want to thank you so much for all of those remembrances of people that are important in our lives, and I know there are remembrances in our hearts today that go unspoken. And but whenever we remember, we bring that person alive again, don't we? It's a wonderful thing. So now please rise as you are willing and able for our closing hymn.
Good morning. My name is Ruth Hendry, and I am the newcomer ambassador, and I would especially like to welcome our guests this morning who came out on a rainy day, on a holiday weekend, and to be part of our community today, which is so important. And You are the sunlight that sort of evaporated on the outside. So thank you for being here and being such a blessing. Here's some of the things that are happening at UUCDC this week. Summer RE starts next Sunday, and for those of you who don't know, RE stands for Religious Education, and if you're new to Unitarian Universalism, we make a lot of abbreviations. Our awesome Summer Sunday program for preschool through 5th graders is back for a second year. Starting on May 31st, kids will be invited to join Alyssa Franklin for a time of stories, crafts, and play. No need to pre-register, just show up and join in the fun and enjoy. Sometimes the most meaningful conversations happen when we slow down and simply ask, what do I believe? What have I experienced? The Open Circle offers exactly that, a new monthly gathering for shared reflection in a curious, supportive, open-hearted space. We will meet the fourth Wednesday of each month from 7:30 to 8:30, from 7 to 8:30 p.m. starting this Wednesday. Reach out to Michelle Yerger for more information. And the Unitarian Universalist Church of Delaware County is a gold sponsor of Delco Pride. We'll be marching in media on June 6th. Anyone interested in joining the parade is invited to join us. The Welcoming Congregation Committee will also be staffing a table at the Pride Festival in Upper Darby on the 13th of June. There will be a Sunday morning potluck for UUCDC and friends to be held on June 21st. We'll be hosting the UUs from the Philadelphia area for a live stream of the Unitarian Universalist Association General Assembly Sunday worship service. This will be held in place of our regular worship services and will start at 11 a.m. Before the service, we will have a potluck brunch for our community and visitors. Please see Chrissy or send Chrissy an email for more information. And we do have a month to get ready. It's before the service, which is, I believe, at 11, and more information will be forthcoming. But I think it's before, but I wouldn't go to court on it. Just remember that you are unique and a miracle, and it's a joy to see you, and just let us be. Peace.
As we extinguish our chalice this morning, we remember those who came before us and the flame of life in all things. May we carry the light. May we share it freely. May we find it everywhere. Amen. Now it's our time for our benediction. For those who come here seeking God, may God go with you. For those who come here embracing life, may life return your affection. And for those who come to seek a path, may a way be found and the courage to take it step by step. Blessed be. Amen.